Hey, what is up, guys? This is Cam Bam here. Today we're going to continue on with our movie rating series, and we are going to be rating the movie Arcadian today. My last 3 videos in this series were me rating Immaculate, Late Night with the Devil, and Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. So if you guys want to go see that, there's a link down in the description below. But anyways, let's get to rating Arcadian, and yeah, let's get into it. So this movie was actually a pretty decent movie. I came in with kind of mixed expectations just because I don't think it was showing at Cinemark. I don't think it was. So I came into this movie theater where I live called Synergy. And let's just say they did not do the lighting properly. It was not the movie's fault. It was completely on the theater for keeping dim lights on while the movie was going. So, I mean, it was somewhat the movie's fault just because they made the film very, very dark, so it made it very hard to see what was even happening in the movie at some times. But going to the pros and cons of the movie, the pros, we're going to start out with the pros. The pros were actually, I actually enjoyed this movie. It had some very, very unique monsters in this movie. They are very unique, something you've never seen in a movie before. It does give a lot of A Quiet Place vibes in this movie, but the monsters are completely unique, completely not like the Quiet Place monsters. The monsters were very unexplained. Like, they didn't explain much about these monsters, and this was somewhat a con and a pro for me. I felt like some of the stuff that the monsters did was so out of the ordinary that I just was completely confused on how that could exist. But some of the things on the monsters was actually pretty interesting. You can get the vibe where everyone in the movie, everyone in that world, in that post-apocalyptic world, has no idea what these monsters even are anyways, which is part of the reason why they don't explain it. It kind of leaves it up to you to explain what these monsters are and how they do the things they do. That was actually somewhat of a pro for me. I liked having that mysterious kind of vibe where you don't know what is really even happening with these monsters. I also feel like the performances in this movie from the actors was phenomenal. It was very good. Nicolas Cage really did well in this movie. He also was in another movie this year that I've also watched that I will later make a video on called Longlegs. Obviously, you guys have heard of it. If you're watching this, probably because it just recently came out. But he did really good in this movie as well. I feel like this movie was very underrated and not many people really knew about it. Another thing I liked about this movie was one specific scene. I'm not going to mention spoilers or anything, but there was a very creepy scene where it's like built up into the monsters attacking one of the kids. And the lack of music really helped make this scene scary as it was. It just really did. I could tell that the directors, when they looked at this, maybe if they did put music into this, they could tell it kind of took away from the scariness. So they didn't have any music playing this entire scene. And that was my favorite scene of this entire movie, was that scene. It was very creepy, and the sound effects were the key part in the whole thing. Which is another, like, that's the thing that I think a lot of movies make mistakes on today, is the creepy aspect. And I liked how they just did that. It's like how horror should be. It's like not just everything has to be jump scares, music, tense stuff every time. It can be just a simple monster coming through the house with no music, sound effects only. That's what I kind of liked. It was very well done. And another pro for this movie is I liked how they didn't just make the monsters the issue. I feel like that's what a lot of movies now do. They make it just for the monsters. The monster's the only bad guy. And I liked how this movie, in one scene, in one part, they have humans who are also being bad. They are also the antagonists of the story. It's not just about the monsters. They are also in the wrong. It really did bring a lot to the story, and tell how a post-apocalyptic world like that could give humans abilities to do awful things. I also like the conflict of this movie. The conflict was very good. I liked how everything led up to another thing. I'm not going to get into spoilers, but mostly in this movie, one conflict led up to another. It's like a sequel of events that led up to the end of the movie, that led up to everything bad happening. It wasn't just one specific conflict. Lots of different things happened to contribute to this big conflict, which ended up being towards the end of the movie. On to the cons for this movie. Like I said before, I did not like how dark it was. There were so many scenes in this movie that were so dark, and partially this was not the movie's fault. It was the theater for not making me be able to see this, because I went to this theater, like I said, with dim lights. They kept the lights on, but they were dim. And with any sort of lighting on this movie, in the movie theater, you can't see what's going on. It's impossible. And I've watched this movie twice now. So I watched it in the theater, and then later on I watched it at home. And when I watched it at home with all the lights off, I could completely understand what was going on. I understood and saw the monsters, unlike when I first watched it in the theaters. I felt like they really just needed to have better lighting in this movie. Another thing I really didn't like about this movie, it just had a little less of a backstory than what I would have preferred. I feel like they could have given more of a backstory on what happened the first day these monsters came to be on our planet. That wasn't very explained, not very well. And they really kind of left it as a mystery, like they did with some of the things on how the monsters worked. I kind of agree with the whole thing with how the monsters work and keeping that a secret, but why would they keep that a secret on how these monsters even came into the Earth? Really, the only backstory they give is about the father, which is Nicolas Cage, and his sons. They give a little bit of a backstory on that and how he provided for them and raised them. You don't get much other than that, though. That's what I feel like they could have given a little bit more on that and explained it more. Due to me liking this movie, and despite all the things of me not being able to see it the first time, the second time I understood what was going on. And I'm not going to blame that all on the movie. Just because the theater should have dimmed the lights a lot more than what they did. So my rating of this movie is going to be a 6 out of 10. I really think it was not super, super good, but it was a good movie. It was enjoyable. It had unique parts to it. It had really good, I really liked the way they filmed it. And I liked the conflict and everything, the acting, the performances. That was all great. I just wish they would had a little bit more of a backstory on this, how all of this happened. And I wish they would have given a little bit more backstory on the monsters, just on how they do the things they do. I know I said that would be a kind of a pro. I am iffy on both sides of that. I wish they gave a tiny bit more on the monsters and explained a little bit more on them. But at the same time, like I said, it gives more mystery to the story and mystery on how these monsters work and how they do the things they do. But yeah, overall, I think this movie was a really good movie. It was very enjoyable, and I liked it a lot. I think it was definitely better than Godzilla x Kong and Late Night with the Devil. I think it was definitely better than those two. I don't think it was better than Immaculate. I think Immaculate was a tiny bit better. But overall, this movie was very enjoyable. But anyways, guys, if you guys don't know about this movie, which I think a lot of people really don't know about this movie, I would really recommend it. If you like horror and monster type movies that are kind of like A Quiet Place, I definitely recommend this movie. This movie is very good, and this movie is really in that subject, and it would be definitely for you. But yeah, guys, this is where I'm going to end the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.